Right, so from February this to 2016, next year, every single landlord across the country will have to be checking the immigration status of their tenant. Now what that means is it's something we've been doing here in the Midlands for a little while now, but really what it means is making sure that every single tenant that you move into a property has the right to rent in the UK. So what does that mean? Well, basically it's making sure they've actually got the right to be in the country, so it's like an immigration check. So you've got to make sure that either they've got an English passport or European passport, or they have immigration status to actually be here. Now, in most cases it's not as complicated as you think. It's getting a copy of their passport or relevant ID and making sure that they are actually an EU citizen, and most will fit into that criteria. But if not, you're then looking to see that they've actually been passed as a right to rent in the UK from the immigration office. If for any reason they can't produce those documents or they don't have them or whatever, you can actually go on the immigration website and actually check their status online, which is really quite useful and very helpful and has worked well up until now, although there has been a concern that if everybody in the country is coming into play with this in February 2016, it might get a little bit busy, so that's something to bear in mind. So what's the penalties if we don't do this? I mean, if you do not check the immigration status of a tenant and you find out that you've got someone living in your property that hasn't got the right to rent in the UK, the penalties are up to £3,000. Now that's quite hefty, but what they have said is that £3,000 will be the penalty for a repeat offender or someone that really is taking no notice of it whatsoever, with much lesser penalties for first offences. So their idea here is not to really make everybody hit everybody with a blame stick here. It's about really getting a practice in place of making sure that we do check that the people living in our properties do have a right to rent in the UK. So it's helping them with their border control. So it's going to be interesting. Certainly here in the Midlands, we've been running it now for a little while. It hasn't caused too many problems. We've had some interesting stories like people turning up with their brother's passports and things like that. But, you know, obviously we're not expected to be immigration officers, but you do have to be diligent, and things like looking at the passport. You know, if it says it's a 60-year-old woman, is it a 60-year-old woman sitting in front of you? Does the passport look like it's been played with? And they do come in with weird letters which are from the immigration office. You know, is it valid? What does it look like? You know, so be prepared to check and go onto the immigration website. There's lots of helpful stuff there to talk you through this process. But you must have a process in place to make sure that the person you're renting to does have the right to rent in the UK. So we've certainly had no problems with it as yet, and we do have quite a lot of foreign tenants, but time will tell and we shall see. And of course, obviously when it's coming up for renewal, you need to be checking again, and they're also saying that a landlord will actually be given the right to evict on the basis that they don't have immigration status as well. So looking forward to hearing how that's going to work, because they're saying it won't be done in the same way as we do evictions now, so looking forward to hearing how that's going to come out. So there's going to be a bit of a change. I'm a little bit worried about the immigration website getting really busy, but at the end of the day, for us here, we've not had too many problems. So make sure they've got an EU passport. If they haven't got an EU passport, then you need to make sure that you've got a right to rent in the UK from the immigration office. Make yourself some sort of action to follow that up when that expires, so that you can make sure that you get a renewal off them. You will probably have to evict them if they don't produce the renewal document, and remember, the immigration website is there to help you if there are any issues or if you're a little bit unsure. That is there. There's also quite a lot of referencing companies offering good service to do this as well, so there's a few opportunities to outsource this too, although remember, the liability still lies with you. One of the things was asked recently as to how you check a document for someone that's overseas and not going to get here until the day they land. They did say that you can check those documents online. So example, they could send you a photocopy, a screenshot, a photograph of that ID, but you need to see the original when they land here in the UK. So there's lots of little nuances like that to get your head round. But certainly we've not had any major problems here, so don't worry too much about it, but just make sure you've got these processes in place. I hope that's useful.